The European Union are once again pushing to take over the British Army. It's nothing new, it's not surprising, but the push continues and it's now accelerating. So let's talk about the idea of the European Union, the European Army, or as they say, the EU Defence Union. We voted to leave the European Union, right? We got excited. We actually got the result. And then 2016 was finished. 2017 came. We were supposed to be starting negotiations, right? Somehow, our dear Prime Minister at the time, Theresa May, decided to sign up to an agreement to sell out our British armed forces to a new European pact, a new European Defence Union. It completely defeated the purpose of Brexit, because Brexit wasn't just about trade, it wasn't just about taxes or things like that, it was basic sovereignty. So you have all these areas that we were a member of, all these programs in the EU, right? And we left a lot of them. And then while we were leaving, globalists like Theresa May thought it would be a good idea to sign up to not just a new program, one of the most idiotic ideas ever. The European Defence Union, right? And you got Pesco now to deal with. You got basically the EU army rising up. By the way, don't be scared, because they're not going to do anything. They are so divided inside that continent that you cannot get a unifying army to be the new NATO. Having said that, they're still going to be destructive, and we are apparently selling out even our current government. Let's talk about what's going on, because there's now a new warning of EU plot to bring our army under its command and subjugate the UK in a Brexit payback. This is according to obviously Michel Barnier, who is now pushing these ideas. I thought that Barnier was such a yesterday news, but no. Michel Barnier doesn't get anywhere. You had in the 2000s, I believe it was 2004, when he was in the French government, Michel Barnier was the same politician at the time, same minister, French minister, who signed up and proved the plans for the Wuhan labs that we now see and all the chaos that happened. He gave the green light and the funding and everything else. Obviously, we had Fauci and the others in America, but when it comes to Europeans and the French, yes, it was Michel Barnier. We'll talk about Barnier another time, but let's talk about what's going on here, because this man is obviously pushing Britain to sign a defence and security deal with Brussels because the bloc is desperate for British military capability. Now, this is according to Ben Habib of Reform UK, and as obviously speaking earlier, Mr. Barnier called for a new kind of cooperation. So Barnier is talking about that. You got Macron talking about new cooperation in this new European political community, which I say is EU 2.0. And Barnier is bringing the UK into that, saying, Macron is bringing the UK into that, saying, it's not the EU, don't worry, but it's basically like the EU. And you got Barnier pulling us into the army, the EU army, because the rest of the continent is chaotic and they need us. They can't have America. They don't want America because they say America has been leading NATO and we are against that. So we want to have our own European NATO. Very good idea, idiots. So we had Ben Habib telling the Express that people do not realize, but the UK army and military is fast slipping into being part of the EU's alternative to NATO. This is their permanent structured cooperation known as PESCO. The UK has already signed up to PESCO Mobility, a program which requires the UK not to contravene the security and defence interests of the EU, its security and defence policies, and to support the EU's strategic autonomy and decision making. So we're already giving up a lot of our sovereignty to these guys anyway, but they're going to go and push for more from the European Union side. It's all about the political will inside Britain. Now, an unnamed UK minister last month confirmed that London and Brussels have already reached a consensus on the majority of an agreement for the UK to take part in a military project. So we're already basically agreeing to get involved with all these projects, again, in the name of PESCO, right? This is the EU's Defence Coordination Group. And we're supposed to be absolutely fine with it. Yet my problem is, I'm talking about it here. The Express wrote an article about it. Where is the corporate media? This is a brilliant story to focus on. This is so important. It's fascinating, by the way. While it's destructive, it's also fascinating because it's going to change the future. The history books will talk about these moments. Whether it goes right or wrong, that's obviously, we all have our opinions. I'm against it, we know that, and some of you will be against it. But it's not about that. It's a fascinating moment in history. They talk about it. Everybody is completely shutting down debate, shutting down reportings, shutting down journalism and argument. Why? Do you think that's how you're going to continue to create your new world order or the new consensus, let's just say? You can't. People will kick off eventually. Anyway, that's where we are. By the way, there's a bit of a problem in the European Union because von der Leyen could be ousted as the head of the European Commission because it's a new rival who's plotting to take over the Commission. Now, the President of the European Commission is currently facing the prospects of a challenge to her leadership, with one insider claiming an obvious rival is already plotting to topple her in 2024. The European Union. The family, the friendly family, a united family of neighboring Europeans, right? They're supposed to... They told us they all love each other. They told us they're all united. They told us that they have one common goal. No, they don't. They have absolutely no idea where they're going. The Germans want one thing. The French are obsessed with something else. And of course, the Scandinavians just want to make more money. And at the same time, you got the Eastern blocs who are only in the European Union because of free money. They're being bribed to be in the European Union with all the subsidies and everything else. Otherwise, they would have left years ago. And all the other countries are getting destroyed. And they want us to believe that we leaving the EU is the worst thing that's happened. Now we are divided. Have you seen what's going on in Europe? Idiots. Anyway, let's take a quick break. And we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about, well, more Brexit. But this is actually quite funny because this is the European Union supporters, the Ramonas, EU rejoiners, who are being a little bit insulting as usual, because this is how they debate. They are now wishing and they're looking forward to Brexit voters to basically get wiped out and die so that they could have the new generation voting in a new referendum. Let me know what you think. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.